Jerusalem is modern, ancient, it's hectic, patient. Jerusalem is a beauty to behold. Its walls are old and domes are gold. Jerusalem is spicy, dynamic, it's iconic, panoramic. Jerusalem is inspiring, unique, it's simple and chic. Jerusalem is brimming with styles, vibrant, charismatic, abundant smiles. Cobblestone streets, colored with sweets. Eclectic orchestra of authentic beats. It's the shoot, the basta, the shawarma. It's all about good karma. It's people, gates and views, culture, art and muse. Jerusalem is tradition, innovation. It's about openness, recreation. It's a city, destination, a goal. Jerusalem is how it feels to be whole. It's the knowledge, the courage, the drive to create. It's the source, the spirit, the reflection of faith. Jerusalem is Israel, it's Mediterranean chill. Jerusalem is real.
Hi everyone, I'm happy to be here. Can you please turn on your camera so we can say hello to all of you? Oh, thank you. I see, oh, hi, great. So I'm happy to be here and to open, well, to welcome all of you and to open the virtual day, the virtual open day of the MA in Nonprofit and Management and Leadership of the Hebrew University. And I'm very happy and I really hope to see each one of you next year in Jerusalem. You will hear later on from the head of the program and the lecture and from all of us about the program, and I really hope that you will decide to join us. So now I would like to ask Professor Ron Shor, the academic head of the program, to speak.
Hello, everybody. And first, we have a PowerPoint. Amy, could you please load the PowerPoint? Okay, thank you. So I would like, just a second. Thank you, Amy. No, this is not it.
Sorry, one second, I'm trying to go back.
Sorry for the delay. Please.
There we go.
No, the second slide. Okay. Hello, everybody. And I would like to welcome you to the open day which we are conducting. I will briefly describe the Nonprofit Management and Leadership MA program. And the major objective of this program is to provide theoretical and practical knowledge of management, entrepreneurship, and leadership in the nonprofit world. And really to provide you the conceptual, theoretical, and practical knowledge how to work and lead nonprofit organizations. Amy? Amy, could you please? No. Okay. The program consists of 38 credits. 32 of them are required courses, and I will give you later on several examples of the courses included in the program, and 6 credits are elective courses. Students may choose one course outside the program. One of the unique features of the program is that it is a program which you can complete within 1 year. The program extends over 3 semesters, autumn, spring, and summer semesters. And the summer semester is in fact a 4-week semester in which in each week we deliver 1 intense course. Amy, please. I would like to give you several examples of the courses included in the program. We have project workshops, workshops in which students develop projects And these workshops provide them examples, provide students opportunities to get involved in nonprofit organizations. How to advance marketing in nonprofits. We have a new course about nonprofit resilience in post-corona world. How the corona and the COVID-19 changed the nonprofit world and how nonprofit organizations adjusted themselves to the nonprofit world. A few other examples are how to manage the finance in nonprofit organizations, how to manage fundraising and advanced fundraising, and how to manage and advance the boards in nonprofit organizations. Later on, Dr. Aviv Schwartz will describe more specifically two of the courses which he is teaching in the program. Amy, please. Why and what are the unique characteristics of the programs which we think unique about the nonprofit management and leadership program? First, this is a program which provides a meaningful career that will allow you to impact society. It's also it's an academic degree which combined with the practical aspects, it provides students an opportunity for involvement in nonprofit organizations. Students who graduate from the program can develop through the program international professional networks which they can implement later on in their professional career. And as you saw in the introductory movie, this program provides students the opportunity to study abroad, to study in Jerusalem, which is a very unique place to study abroad. Amy, please. I would also like to emphasize that Israel and Jerusalem are locations for wide and diverse nonprofit organizations. The Hebrew University is consistently ranked among the top 100 universities in the world, and that the Rothberg International School is the oldest international school in Israel. And finally, I would like to note that the graduates of the nonprofit management and leadership work in diverse areas, such as in healthcare, education, social welfare areas, helping refugees. And really this program open the opportunities for involvement in diverse areas of practice in the nonprofit world. I would like now to present Dr. Aviv Schwartz, and Aviv will speak about the two courses that he's teaching and his experience in the program. Aviv, please.
Thank you, Ron. Good evening, good afternoon, and to some of you, actually, I think it's good morning. It's a pleasure to be joining you from Tel Aviv. As Ron mentioned, I am one of the instructors in the program. I've had the privilege of teaching in this program from its inception in 2007. So I've been able to gain some perspective over the years of how it's developed and some of the changes that have taken place over time. The two courses in particular that I teach, one in each of the fall and spring semesters. In the fall semester, I teach a course called The Third Sector and Civil Society in Israel and Globally, which is essentially kind of a primer course for the program at large. The second course I teach in the spring semester relates specifically to the work of nonprofit boards and the larger issue of governance in nonprofit organizations. The second course draws largely on guest speakers from the field who are leading leaders and practitioners in Israeli nonprofits. What I want to speak to very briefly before turning it over to two of the individuals I had the pleasure of teaching last year, I want to mention what I think are maybe the two most striking advantages that our program offers. And I don't claim to be objective here. The advantages, I think, are in its size. That is, its largeness and its smallness. And I'll explain in a moment what I mean by that. When I refer to the program as being large, it's not so much large in number, although this year's cohort is quite large relative to previous years. We have, Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we have 34 students in this year's cohort.
Yes.
Which, if I'm not mistaken, is the largest it's ever been. But it's still, as you can imagine, a pretty small and intimate cohort, which allows for significant, even during this period of learning primarily on Zoom, allows for a significant and extensive interaction among students and with faculty as well. But what's striking about each cohort, and this year's cohort is no exception, is the incredible diversity. We have people from virtually every continent on the planet, perhaps with the exception of Antarctica. I don't think we've ever actually had a student from Antarctica. But and this diversity not only makes, in my mind at least, for a more interesting experience both for students and for faculty, but it also enriches any and all class discussions, particularly those that focus on third sectors anywhere in the world. And I know I'm not alone in encouraging as much active class discussion as possible. And to the extent that we can draw on the experiences of different cultures, different countries, different nonprofit sectors around the world, I think we all benefit. And when I say we, I'm referring to myself as well, because it makes my job that much more interesting when we have such a diverse and extensive cohort from year to year. When I refer to small, I'm referring to the nonprofit sector, which, if you will, is our laboratory. I mentioned that in one of my courses, I have consistently enlisted leaders from Israel's nonprofit sector and civil society. This is true of a number of the other courses as well. Ron mentioned the project-based course. There's a course which involves touring throughout the Jerusalem area, whether it's actual physical touring or virtual touring. And the fact that the Israel's third sector is, relatively speaking, so small, so accessible. All of our faculty members have ties in various nonprofits throughout the country in general and in the Jerusalem area in particular. And this opens up a world to our students, both for the purposes of practical experience and particularly in the context of research, which is relevant to my fall semester course, that many students in comparable nonprofit programs do not enjoy. And again, it's related to the involvement of each and every faculty member in Israel's third sector, but it's also in many ways a reflection of just how small and informal Israel's third sector is. Israel's third sector in many ways is a reflection of Israeli society at large, and any of you who've had any contact or advanced knowledge of Israeli society know that certainly relative to most European and American societies, Israeli society is very informal and generally very accessible, very flat in terms of its hierarchical relations. And so this is, I see as a tremendous advantage for students who wish not only to study Israel's third sector, and of course through Israel's third sectors around the world, but also gain more of a hands-on familiarity with that third sector. So again, these in my mind are some of the advantages that I think our program offers, which are unrivaled in most comparable programs for nonprofit management leadership. And I think with that, I will invite, and it's my honor to invite, two very recent graduates from the program, Malko Windheim, who hails from Montreal, Canada, and Nathan Greenberg, who is from Mexico. They both graduated our program last year, And I think they can each share with you insights that none of us are in a position to do. So thank you for your attention. It's been a pleasure joining you all. And with that, I think, Malka, I will turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction and for allowing us to speak on this platform. So speaking to some of what Dr. Ron Shore has mentioned and Raviv, our experiences were a little bit different, and I'll let Natan speak to his. But before I get into how I got to Hebrew U and entering this master's program, I just want to give a shout out to Raviv. He was one of, I think, the best professors I've ever had in my educational career. And I think you got a little taste of that as he spoke to you just now. So if you do have the honor of attending this course, please be sure to pay attention and engage with his classes and lectures. They're a real treat.
I'm looking for the blushing icon right now. Thank you.
So a little bit about me. I grew up in Canada, spent some time in New York, was involved in a couple of nonprofits there, particularly as some of you may know, if you're from the States, One Table and Birthright. And so I was coming back and forth to Israel fairly often and just fell in love with the country. It'd been on my mind for a very long time, whether I wanted to move to Israel, whether I just wanted to visit. It was just such a spectacular and incredible country. After several years of contemplating it and continuing to engage in Israel activities and just programs, I decided to make the leap. It was a huge decision. I was leaving behind a world that I knew, that I was comfortable in, and moving somewhere where I didn't have family, didn't have friends, and returning to a classroom, which was daunting after several years of not being in that type of setting. When I started researching the Rothberg program, it was incredibly well known and well regarded, and it was in Israel. So it was just everything sort of fell into place. It was all the right pieces for me. As soon as I arrived, I met friends and colleagues that would just change my life completely. I was very anxious showing up to school, but the people that I met in my classroom not only inspired me, but made me feel incredibly comfortable and just that I needed to be there. It felt right. So the people that I met became my closest friends, my greatest inspirations. They had incredibly worldly experiences that they brought to the classroom, that they brought to outside conversations. And it just made me feel, first of all, that I didn't know enough about nonprofit management, but also that there was so much more to learn. And I felt just very driven by their success stories and their experiences. So it's just a wonderful program to be able to engage with people like that, and then also bring their experiences and your experiences to the classroom to build on what you're learning in an educational aspect. That said, the teachers are absolutely brilliant. Again, speaking to Raviv, he spoke to you a little bit about what you'd be learning in the classroom, but they speak to you in a way that's incredibly accessible. There's no wrong question or nothing that's off limits. You're able to speak about anything that feels right to you in the classroom with your teachers, with your other classmates, and they encourage you to apply what you've learned in the classroom and what you've learned outside of the classroom. It doesn't feel like you're learning from a textbook. It really does feel like you're jumping into a whole new world and you're learning inside and outside. So it's just such an incredible feeling. Being in Jerusalem on top of it and exploring a city with your new friends, and it's just a feeling that I can't describe. I'd seen Jerusalem so many times, but seeing it with fresh eyes, with people who had never been to Israel, who'd never been to the shuk, who'd never eaten traditional Israeli food. It was just inspiring to see Israel through their eyes. And I have to say that my time at Rothberg changed my life entirely. I left with a greater passion for learning. I made lifelong friends and created memories that will continue to make me smile for years on end. It's an experience that I will forever be grateful for, and I can't encourage you enough to take the chance to follow in our footsteps and learn from the great professors and your classmates that might join you. So with that, I'll let Natan speak to his experience, and we hope that you'll take the opportunity to join the rest the faculty.
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. Good morning, good evening. My name is Natan. I'm originally from Mexico City. After all that Malka says, I just want to add that if you're looking for diversity, if you're looking for a professional education, both a theory and practice, this course, it's amazing. You will get a little bit of everything. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself. I was involved with marketing and social media for several years. And at the same time, I was always volunteering in community within the Mexican community. And by accident, I ended up working for a nonprofit in Ghana, in Africa. And while I was working there, I understood that we were doing things, let's say, not on a professional way, and that there was a lot more to understand and learn. That was one of the reasons that I decided to study a master's degree on nonprofit management. Again, if you're looking for diversity, both in people, I was never with so many different people in one classroom. Israel itself, it's a country with a lot of diversity, people from all over the place. And both the professors, the people, your colleagues, having the opportunity to do internships, research so easily on Israel, it's amazing. And if you're looking for that, if you're looking for making a change and having all of the theory and the practical basis like on an amazing level, I encourage you to participate in this project and in this program. And thank you.
Yeah, and I guess we'll hand it off to the next speaker.
So I'm going to speak a little bit about, I'll introduce myself. Thank you, first of all, Nathan and Malka. Thanks again for being on board to speak and for sharing your experiences. So I'm going to speak. My name is Amy. I'm the admissions coordinator at the Division of Graduate Studies, and I'm going to speak briefly about the administrative side of the program, the admissions requirements. So I'm going to screen share again and go back to the PowerPoint presentation. One second. Okay. So this is where we ended off with the alumni, which you just heard from Nathan and Malka, so I'll go on. Okay, so very briefly, just some important administrative information. So how much does the program cost? The program is $10,550. We have both need and merit-based scholarships available. I invite you to all be in touch with me. We have information on our website, and I'm also happy to be in touch with you one-on-one. As soon as I finish speaking, we're going to open the platform up to questions and answers, and I'm also going to post in the chat my email address. So some of you have already been in touch with me. I see some familiar faces, but whoever is not, you're welcome to be in touch, and I'm happy to give you more information about that. The application process. So the application process is comprised of two parts. Number one, you submit an online application, and the link is right here. And I will also post that to the chat afterwards. And the second component is that there are a number of required documents that you also need to submit. Okay, so the deadline to apply through the link to submit the online application is July 5th. Okay. What are the required documents? So students need to have a bachelor's degree from an accredited university. Students who are not sure what is an accredited university, it's basically a university that has international accreditation. The criteria change a bit from country to country. If you're not sure if the university that you graduated from has international accreditation, again, send me an email, be in touch with me. I'm happy to check. We require a minimum 3.2 GPA. It's roughly equivalent to a B, to an 80 to 85. Again, students who have a GPA was a little bit lower, who, you're welcome to be in touch with me. I'm happy to answer your questions. We're also going to ask you for a CV and a statement of purpose. This will help us get to know you. And 2 recommendations. So the recommendations can either be from 2 academics, professors, mentors, supervisors, or from 1 academic and 1 professional. Okay. And then the last thing is that you're going to need to submit proof of English proficiency. Okay, so we require a TOEFL score of 80 or above, an IELTS score of 6 or above. Students who graduated from a university in which the sole language of instruction was English can request exemption, so please be in touch with me. And students who did not study in English but are concerned about getting a TOEFL score, is their TOEFL score still valid? I do a TOEFL during COVID. All of those questions, I'll ask that you send me an email afterwards, and again, I'll post my email. Just a word about our campus. So here you can see, this is university housing. It's called the Student Village, and a little bit about what it actually is like to live on campus and to be part of this program. So we have a student village, which is adjacent to campus. It's optional, and it's not included in tuition, but students have private apartments. So we have, I think, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom apartments, and each student has their own bedroom with a shared living room, kitchen, and bathroom. It's about a 5-minute walk to campus. I think it's 2 bus stops away from campus. It's about 15 to 20 minutes away from the center of town by public transportation. And in addition to that, we have a graduate community coordinator who is here to try and create a community out of all of the students. Obviously, the classroom experience is a very big creator of a community, but to get to know students beyond your program, we have about 200 to 250 students in the Division of Graduate Studies every year. So these are students who are studying at all of our other MA programs, and researchers and exchange students. So we really work hard to try and give you not only the opportunity to get to know the people from your program, but also more broadly to get to know the other international students who are studying at Hebrew U. So again, I thank you all for coming, for joining, for listening. I think we're going to open it up now to questions. You're all welcome to ask your questions directly or to write in the chat. We're recording the session, so we're also happy to send the recording. And I think all of you guys are going to get a copy of the questions and answers by email afterwards. So thank you again. And I'm happy to open it up to questions to either, and the question not just to me, to Professor Shore, to the students, to Dr. Schwartz.
Hey, Amy, I think we have one question from Lena in Germany about the English proficiency exams and COVID and not being able to take them due to the lockdown. Is Rothberg making any kind of adjustments for students who aren't able to take those proficiency exams due to COVID?
Yes. So first of all, the TOEFL is now offering an option to actually do the exam at home. I believe it's available in every country. I believe there are certain countries that it's not available in. I know China is one of them, but I'm pretty sure that in Germany it's possible to do it at home. I think you need to get 2 cameras and it needs to be on you, but yes, you can take the TOEFL at home. That's one of the things that TOEFL has done in the age of COVID. Students who, we have a couple of other ways that students can get exempted from this. So Lena, I suggest that you send me an email and I'll follow up with you in a little bit to see. Do you accept, I see Mira is asking, do you accept the executive assessment instead of TOEFL IELTS? Can you expand on that a little bit? What does that mean, executive assessment? Basically the TOEFL and I'm not sure about the IELTS, but the TOEFL offers like a university version of the TOEFL. It's not the TOEFL IBT, which is the internet-based test. We require the TOEFL IBT. So if it's like a small internal version of the TOEFL that your university or your job has given you, that unfortunately we don't accept. let's see what else is coming in. I'm scrolling through the questions. What are some examples of the internships that students took part in?
Good. No. Yes, that's the internship that I did in Mexico. I worked with an NGO called Cadena, and I was working for an emergency hotline.
And a little bit different. My internship was live. I was working with the JDC, which is the or a type of Jewish agency that works with typically underprivileged countries or Jews that need a little more support throughout the world. And I was working in resource development. It was such an inspiring position. I ended up continuing a little bit after my internship had ended. Unfortunately, they were not hiring at the moment, but I am still in touch with the director that I was working with and hope to continue my work with them soon.
Thank you, Malka and Nathan. I would like to clarify that we changed the program, and actually we do not have internship anymore. And instead of having internship, we do have 2 project workshops in which students can develop projects within nonprofit organizations, and these projects provides them the opportunity for involvement in nonprofit organizations. And really, the projects are being conducted in a wide diversity of organizations. And Malka and Nathan gave examples of 2 nonprofit organizations.
Thank you, Professor Shore. Okay, I have another question. What is the cost of university housing for the year? Can you speak to the scholarship opportunities briefly? Sure. So the cost of housing for the 3 semesters of the program is $7,460. It includes utilities, so it's all leading, including water and gas and Wi-Fi and municipal tax. Scholarship opportunities. So we have a merit scholarship, which it covers all of tuition, 100% of the tuition fee. You can be in touch with me. We have information on our website and a link to apply. The deadline is March 15th, so it's coming up soon. And then we have need-based scholarships. So we have an office in New York, and actually Mariah, yes. Mariah, I guess you can post your email in the chat afterwards, and students from the US who are interested in need-based financial aid should follow up with Mariah. I believe they use the FAFSA in order to determine eligibility. Students from other countries where we don't have an office, so everywhere outside the US at the moment, should be in touch with me. We have a need-based scholarship. It's a partial scholarship, and the exact amount varies from student to student and from year to year. In the past, we've had students have up to about 2/3 of their tuition fee covered, but again, it's a need-based scholarship, but the amount can also be determined by merit, and so it's hard to say exactly how much you can anticipate to get. But there are other external scholarships that we also have information about. So for example, new immigrants to Israel are sometimes eligible for financial assistance from the government, which can cover also up to about 2/3 of the tuition fee. There's some students who may be eligible through a program called MASA for financial assistance. So we have more information on our website about the internal and external scholarships that we offer. And I think maybe I'll post that. I'll write a note to myself. I'll post that to the chat so that you guys can have the link to the website with information about scholarship opportunities.
They're on the chat, Amy.
It's on the chat. Great. Okay, so somebody is asking, who is this program for, i.e. what kind of person with what career goals, etc. Professor Shore, Dr. Schwartz, do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, that's obviously difficult to say what I want now since I'm not being recorded. One could ask what a law program, who is that intended for? And the easy answer, of course, would be for those who want to pursue a career in law, but we all know from even anecdotally that that's often not the case. I would say the same is true of nonprofits. I know of a number of graduates who are not working per se in the nonprofit sector, although I suspect most are. But if I had to sum up in just a sentence who the program is intended for, I would say it's intended for people who, in whom a certain passion is burning. It could be in any given substantive area, from special needs to some type of political or social think tank. Someone who has a certain passion would like to ideally parlay that into a career. In other words, to do what they love and somehow be able to make a salary as a result. And in the process to provide the tools and a bit more intellectual rigor so that professional enjoys some type of qualitative edge over others in the field. But my own, if I was asked on one foot, as we say in Hebrew, what my goal is, it would be to make future nonprofit practitioners more reflective practitioners, in a nutshell.
Raviv, before you
I
finish.
would like sorry, I'm sorry. I would just like to add that, in fact, we have a wide range of experience of our students in the program. Some of the students are coming with long-term experience and are very experienced in the nonprofit world. Some of them hold the managerial positions while they are joining the program. And on the other hand, we have students with actually no experience in the nonprofit world. And this provides a very nice integration in the classroom, in the dialogue among students. And I think actually these programs could enrich both ends of the spectrums, both students who are just entering the nonprofit world and students with a very rich experience, which learn through the program the conceptual and the theoretical framework of working in the nonprofits world.
Thank you. I'm just going to add to that because we have a few other questions that are similar. So somebody is asking, is the curriculum quantitative heavy? And I'll just add one more question before I hand it over to you, Professor Shore. Students are asking about whether or not it's possible to work alongside the degree and to study part-time, and how much time on average is needed outside of school days for homework and projects, exams versus paper. So basically, about working and learning, about making the program part-time, and about how much time is required outside of the class time in order to complete the assignments.
Well, first, our program, the studies in the programs are in the autumn and spring semesters on Mondays and Wednesdays. In fact, it used to be 3 days a week. We condensed the programs into 2 intense days of studies. And then we have the studies during the summer semester, which spread over 4 intense weeks. So it's very individual whether you can work or not. In fact, if someone would like to work while studying in the program, it's possible to work during the other 3 days, 3 or 4 days of the week. However, it is a 1-year program. It's quite an intense program, and students have assignments and reading to complete during the week. Therefore, it's not a black and white answer. It's very individual whether you can manage the studies and work or not. But in terms of the time of studies in the universities, 2 days a week during the academic year, and in addition, we have an intense 4 weeks during the summer semester.
Thank you. I think also, Professor Shore, another question for you. Somebody is asking, do you consider churches as nonprofit organizations? Is this beneficial for someone like me who is in church leadership? And what are the visa requirements? So if you want to answer that question first, I'll come back to the visa requirements afterwards.
Actually, religious institutions could function as nonprofit organizations. We do offer, I should note that this program is a joint program with the School of Social Work at the Hebrew University. At the School of Social Work, we offer an elective course about religious institutions as nonprofit organizations and their role in the nonprofit fields.
Okay, so to speak about the visa requirements, students who are in our program are eligible to hold an A2 student visa. And students who are coming accompanied by close family, their family members are eligible for, I believe it's called an A4 accompanied visa. Students, again, you should be in touch with me. Basically, briefly, the process is as follows. Students receive their acceptance letter, and they also are required at some point to pay the tuition. Once they've paid tuition in full, they take proof of tuition payment together with their acceptance letter to their local Israeli consulate, and from there they're able to start the process of getting a student visa. We recommend that students start the process about 2 months to 6 weeks before they plan to travel, as it can take up to a month to process the visa request. Now during COVID, there's something that it works a little bit differently, in that there's an additional requirement that you need in addition to the student visa. You also need something called an entry permit. An entry permit is the same, it's also issued by the Israeli consulate, but it's only valid for 30 days. So you need to time it a little bit differently so that you get the entry permit within 30 days, you're ready to fly, and then you're able to come to Israel. Another, just briefly about how it's working now, the consulates are requiring that all applicants for student visas provide them with 2 documents, which we provide them with. It's from the university to show that we conform to Israeli Ministry of Health COVID guidelines. In order to receive these 2 documents, we require that students pay a $600 deposit fee, and that deposit fee will go towards paying for quarantine when they arrive in Israel. But we do provide more information once you're in the process, but basically to be accepted, to pay tuition, to pay the $600 deposit fee, and then start the application process directly with the consulate. And because the entry permit is issued 30 days before, to start the process about 2 months to 6 weeks before, so that you'll have it within 30 days of when you plan to travel. Okay, I'm scrolling down for more questions.
May I interject for a moment?
Sure.
I just wanted to tag on to what Ron said earlier in response to the question about religion, the role of religion in nonprofits. It just so happens today, most of my day was spent grading papers from last semester, the deadline for which is tomorrow. And of the 4 papers that I managed to grade, 3 of them the students chose religious organizations as a kind of a case study for their work. There, of course, is a very, very strong tradition of faith-based nonprofits. And the nonprofit sector, historically speaking, had been almost the sole purview of religious-based charity work prior to the modern era. So the answer to that question would be a resounding yes. And again, in every cohort that I remember from our program, there have always been individuals, Jewish and non-Jewish, who have been closely affiliated with various religious or denominational organizations. And this too, I think, adds a very interesting dimension to much of our class discussion on the issue. So a resounding yes.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going on. Are there language classes for Hebrew or Arabic, and are they optional or required? Yes and yes. We have both modern Hebrew and literary Arabic classes available. They are optional, and they're for an extra fee. So students who, it's roughly $1,700 per semester. students who are interested and able, we highly recommend it. Obviously, you know, it enriches your experience to be in Israel and to be learning the local languages. Specifically, Hebrew University has a very old, well-established and successful Ulpan program, which is modern Hebrew study. For whoever is interested, it's very much recommended. Someone is asking, is there financial aid available for citizens from developing countries? So yes, we have the need-based financial aid that I spoke about before, and send me an email. I believe they posted my email in the chat. It's gradmiss@savion.huji.ac.il. It's in there. Somebody else is writing, with a student visa, are you not allowed to work in Israel? That's correct. Student visa does not allow you to work in Israel. There is some sort of, basically the exception is if you're working in the kind of job that would give you a scholarship instead of a salary. You can be in touch with me if you have more specific questions, but usually what I would recommend is students who do not have Israeli citizenship and are interested in working in Israel while they study. I think what the best way to go about that is to first try and find a job that you would like to have, and then we can see how we can help you find the right framework to fit that in. So for example, if you're able to find a real employer with, you know, a real regular job in Israel, then you can explore the option of applying for a work visa. The reason why it's important to find a job first is because you'll probably need to have that employer sponsor you in order to get the visa. The other thing that it's important to remember is that students can work remotely with their home countries. So you can't legally work in Israel, but you can be presently in Israel and working remotely, for example, from the States. Actually, I think this is a question that we get a lot. So maybe I'll ask Natan and Malka, I mean, I don't know if you guys worked while you studied, but in your cohort, do you know of students who were working while they studied, and how did they balance that? We understand that students, you know, obviously there's a real need to have income coming, especially with things like student loans and, you know, paying tuition. So
I'm an Israeli citizen. I was working full-time during the master's degree. Like literally I was studying and working from Sunday to Friday. It was heavy, but it's doable.
Yeah, we had lots of classmates working while they were studying, whether it be remote work or getting a part-time job within Israel, and they managed it just fine. The workload is substantial, but it's not overwhelming where you won't be able to have sort of a life outside of your coursework.
And there's enough time to do and write the final essays and the papers. Like
there's a question about the age of the students. What's the range of the age of the students?
I can say probably 21, 22 till 45. I don't know. It was like
there's quite a range, especially in our cohort. I think the average range was probably mid-20s, but we definitely had people on the other side of the spectrum, which ranged through the 30s and 40s, and then some younger students as well.
My experience in terms of age range is obviously varies from cohort to cohort. Based on my own experience, those coming from North America tend to be younger, usually 2, 3, 4, 5 years past their undergraduate degree. Those coming from Europe and South America, generally a little older. The Palestinians who've been in our program tend to be older and already employed a number of years in either the public or the nonprofit sector. So it varies.
We have a question that came up twice, so I don't think that we addressed it. Someone is asking, two people have asked, is the curriculum quantitative heavy? Do either of you, Professor or Dr. Schwartz, do you want to answer that?
I think that I answered. We are condensing actually a program which generally is being taught within 2 years into 1 year. So yes, the 2 days a week are intense days, but as Nathan and Malcolm mentioned, it's doable. It's doable to manage the workload and even to work during the program.
There are two questions here. One, I'll give this back to you. I'll just answer the first question. Someone is asking, can you say more about 2 academic recommendations? So this one I'll answer, and then Professor Shore, there's another one for you. My undergraduate degree has nothing at all to do with this program. Will it be difficult for me? So we understand that students are applying from a very wide range of majors. It will definitely not work against you if you are providing an academic recommendation from a professor who comes in from a totally unrelated field. What we're looking for are recommendations who speak to your academic abilities, your suitability for study abroad, and that can be in any area. The best recommendations are often very, very specific about how a student performed in whatever field they were performing in. As long as we're getting a concrete idea of who this student is, what they have to offer, where they want to go, it doesn't matter what field it's coming from. Professor Shore, somebody, or Dr. Schwartz, or Malka Natan, whoever this is for, is there a possibility to work in Israel after graduation? I think the question is, how does the program set students up to find work in Israel after graduation?
I think that the program definitely provides the knowledge, the skills to get integrated into the nonprofit worlds anywhere in the world, not only in Israel. So definitely students who are studying in the program and are in Israel can use the advantage of being in Israel and get integrated in the nonprofit fields in Israel. And we do have quite a few of our graduates who are integrated in the nonprofit fields in Israel and got nice and managerial jobs in nonprofit organizations in Israel.
Okay. Somebody is asking about passing the TOEFL or the English exam in Rwanda and the scholarship opportunities. So I know you were in touch with me. I haven't gotten to your email yet. I'll send you a personal email after this session is over because I saw your email, and I will answer these questions as well. Just before I do, so there are other ways that we can find if you're having trouble taking the English test. There are things that we can do to help you. And it's possible that you may be exempt. We'll check out your transcripts. And scholarship opportunities, yes, we do have the need-based scholarship that you can apply for. Somebody is asking, would coming to Israel be contingent on the vaccine situations of our home countries? If we're unable to get our vaccines, would be able to travel to Israel? Yes, actually, I think, Naama, correct me if I'm wrong, last week or 2 weeks ago, the Hebrew University actually just opened a vaccine station for students. So students are definitely not expected to come vaccinated. They can come and be vaccinated in Israel. The travel situation depends on basically the state of what's going on in Israel more than what it has to do with the state of your home country. This, just to give a little bit of information, this year, the year that started in October, the students program started on Zoom. The studies are still on Zoom. We're hoping to go back to the classroom after Passover in April. But I think 70% of our students or even more actually travel to Israel. They prefer to study remotely from here, from Israel. So yes, you are definitely welcome and encouraged to travel to Israel. At the moment, we're planning to hold the next academic year on campus. So and it's not going to have to do with whether or not you are vaccinated. Okay, what is the average age of students in this MA program? So I think we spoke with that already. I'm scrolling through the questions. Are there many exams or more final papers? If anyone wants to answer that question. Well, let me just, I'll attach 2 questions together and then you can answer. So somebody is asking, are there more final exams or final papers as the final assignments to the courses? And somebody is also asking, I'm going to tack this on, just what by quantitative, I mean, are there heavy math and data courses such as statistics besides for finance?
Okay, so most of the assignments, or I would say almost all the assignments in the program, are actually papers and not exams. In terms of, we do have one course as a finance course, which does require knowledge how to manage finance. This is, I would say, the only course which has some quantitative components in the course.
We have a question. Are there any example of alumni who have founded nonprofits either in Israel or their diaspora country that you can speak of? So Jay, you're welcome to send me an email. I'm happy to put you in touch with two students. Actually, up on our website, we started a few months ago to collect more information from alumni and what they're doing now. And we have it actually up on our website under Career and Alumni. Two students from the past 3-4 years that they graduated, one from North America, that she founded a nonprofit organization that has to do with holistic health and fitness, and one from China who founded in Shanghai a nonprofit which also offers consulting to NGOs and social businesses, and also does nonprofit work in her specific area. So those are two specific examples, but that I know of, but I'm sure that Professor Schur and Dr. Schwartz, you have other examples that you can think of.
Or another example of a student who is managing an organization providing food for poor populations. And it is a very nice nonprofit organization.
Okay, so a question for the alumni. Wait a minute, I lost it. What was not covered by this program that you felt was missing?
So I think that every year they make the changes to the program in order to make it better. I can say that maybe I was probably expecting a little bit more like business topics on the course. But again, as Ron says, they are changing everything every year to make it better. I don't know if Malka.
Yeah, I'm speaking a little bit more to the projects that we were assigned during the classes. It was so we had some projects that were a little more personal and what you wanted to achieve in your future careers and what your sort of preferences were. And then we also had projects that were group-based, where you had to come together and think about an issue that was being presented, whether in Israel or abroad, in a specific community, and try to come up with either a new nonprofit or an existing nonprofit and come up with a program that might speak to that issue. So to Natan's point, maybe there could have been a little more formal education around administration and creating a nonprofit, but at the same time, we did have the opportunity to think about those types of things on our own and work with our classmates to work through those types of issues and present our projects to professors who gave us feedback. So while it wasn't like a formal education, it was a more hands-on experience, and you did get guidance where you needed it. So
just let's remember that it's a one-year program. So there's also a time limit on the things that you can see.
Thank you. I would just like to add, as Nathan and Malka mentioned, that we are doing constantly changes in the program. And in fact, we added one more project workshop. So now the students have 2 project workshops. One is a more individual, based on their individual interests. And the other one is a project workshop in which students have to develop a project within a nonprofit organization, which would be a meaningful project for the organization. And this is a more formal education which related to in your in terms of it provides a hands-on experience in the organization. So this is part of our constant changes and improvement of the program. Yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone. We really enjoying having you all, meeting you all here. If you want to make a change, if you have passion about to work, to learn about social organization, if you want to lead, to make everything, to make things better, I think you are belong with us, with our team of students. So we invite you to come to Jerusalem to study in the next academic year. We are here, Amy and every one of us, each one of us would be happy to answer you by email, by phone, wherever. Just be in touch with us. And I hope to see you next year in Jerusalem. So bye-bye, and thank you for coming.
Bye. Thank you very much. Good luck, whatever you do.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, Malka and Nathan.
Bye. Thank you
Bye.
again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Malka and Nathan. Yeah.